Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that I'm currently seated on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I know that many of you are in the land of other nations. So if you'd like, feel free to write those nation names in the chat. And always let us remember our connection to our siblings in these nations, and that we may work and pray for the day in which we might be together in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own home. Please bring who you are into this community with you. But what we are asked to remember, of course, is that others today here also bring who they are with them as well. So all of goodwill are welcome. And now we'll just join together for our opening song.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Always a great way to start our mornings together. Thank you. Time for some announcements this morning. Just a reminder that our Circle of Sanctuary is taking a little wee break for the summer, and we will be beginning that again in September. So look forward to that in our newsletter, and we'll continue to make announcements about that as Rachel and I prepare to restart that in the fall. A note you may have seen in our newsletter as well that we're having our annual community meeting following our service today. All are welcome. We're going to review our highlights of the year and give some reports and go over our financials, go through the usual process of any election of council members and orientation of roles on the council, the usual AGM type things as a community. We'll be fulfilling our needs and our duties. Yeah, so we hope folks can join us for that. Another announcement is that the Restorative Future, which is the restorative Peace of the Circle restorative justice program in Vancouver, will be having a live webinar on June 23rd from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And that webinar, they're going to share the world's first restorative city framework, which they've just published. So come learn, feel hope, be inspired. You can receive a digital copy then of this restorative city framework. They're going to be presenting the comprehensive vision and roadmap for implementation, which is hopefully going to be leading to a greater future for all, creating from neighborhoods to schools and workplaces, public spaces, government justice systems, and the land. It touches all parts of our community, including the friends who are going to be presenting, including our friend Norm Leach will be there from the Metro Vancouver Aboriginal Executive Council. So I'm going to put a link in the chat real quick. So if anybody is interested in that on June 23rd, this is where to register for that. And that's all I have for announcements. Does anybody else have anything they want to share this morning? What's happening in your community? Yes, Carol, please.
Hi, I don't have anything to announce, but in regards to the meeting, I have to leave right at 11. My cat had a run in with a coyote, and I
Oh,
have to take her to the vet. So I can't stay for the meeting, but I will just offer that if there is any kind of way I can support or let me know, like communicate with me if there's a role or something that needs
thank you, Carol.
could
No,
use me.
What a wonderful offer. Thank you very much. We will be in touch. Great. Any other announcements
Just
this
not
morning?
treasury.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. That one is the hardest to fill, probably on every board, I'm guessing. Oh, wonderful. Anyone else thoughts this morning to share? Yes, Nevaeh.
I just wanted to remind people that tomorrow is National Indigenous Day, and maybe we could say a prayer for the our Indigenous sisters and brothers. I've been listening to the CBC music programs on about the famous cellist Chris what was her last name? Dexter or Derrickster? Pardon?
Dirksen.
Dirksen, yes. And listening to her music all morning, and it's so beautiful. And I encourage other people to try to listen to that today because she was tragically killed in a car accident last month and returning from visiting her father's gravesite, which is so sad. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nevaeh. Thank you for bringing that to our hearts and minds. All right, no other announcements. Let's go ahead and move ourselves towards our opening prayer this morning. Hello. Putting our heart, our spirit, divine source, higher self, and loving guides, we welcome you here. Please clear this space we share today of any distracting energies. Guide our hearts and hands toward the messages and guidance we need to move forward in the right way, for our highest good and for the highest good of all beings. Help us to receive these insights with open hearts and open minds. May it be so. And for our candle lighting prayer this morning, we have a poem by Mary Oliver. I'll begin by lighting the candle here. This is The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. All right, friends, let's take a moment to unmute ourselves this morning and greet one another with a sign of peace. Peace, everyone. It's so beautiful having you with us this morning.
Peace be with you.
Peace be with
Peace,
you.
everyone.
Peace.
Peace, everyone.
Peace be with you.
Peace. Namaste.
Thank you, friends. Now we'll turn it over to Bruce and Cheryl for another song.
Guide my hands, guide my sight, reveal the shadow and the light. And guide my hands, guide my sight, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my sight, reveal the shadow and the light. guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light. Guide my hands, guide my side, reveal the shadow and the light.
Thank you. What a beautiful song to ground with this morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Now, friends, if you'll join together in reciting our joint affirmation, we come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here. Now we're just going to take a few moments to settle in for a brief meditation I'll guide us into, and then I'm going to invite everyone just to pray for whatever is on your heart this morning. There are so many layers in our world of heartbreaking and complex and hopeless at feeling at times, and let's turn our hearts in prayer in your own home, in your own language of prayer. But let's begin by just grounding ourselves this morning. Just notice your body, notice the space it's taking up. You can close your eyes or let your gaze lower, whichever feels good to you this morning. And just feel the weight of yourself in the space and the time of this moment. Knowing that we're connected here in community this morning on our little screens. There's a web of energy that's moving between all of us as we've come together with intention, joyful spirits, with all the things that we carry. Let's take a couple deep breaths together and let our breath in harmony extend this web between us. Okay, take a deep breath in, filling up your chest, lots of space. Hold it if you're able at the top. And release, letting it go slow and steady. Another breath, filling up your belly this time. Lots of room in your body, just feeling the expansion. Holding it at the top if you're able, and releasing when you're ready. That's it. Now you can continue to take deep breaths if that feels right, or just settle into the breath that your body would like to be following in your natural breath in this moment. Just feeling your heart open, feeling that return to home, the inward weight of the world that impacts all of us, touches us deeply. Let's turn our hearts and our spirits to pray, offering our words to the great mystery. Mm. May it be so. May your prayers contribute to the transformation of our journey as a humankind and beings. Thank you, everyone. Now I turn it over for another song this morning.
I call upon the light of grace to bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. I call upon the light of grace and bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. I call upon the light of grace to bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. I call upon the light of grace to bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. I call upon the light of grace to bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. I call upon the light of grace to bless this space and time and place. Protect my heart, my mind, my soul, as these strong cards reveal the whole. As these strong cards reveal the whole. As these strong cards reveal the whole.
What a beautiful song. Thank you, Bruce and Cheryl. And now, in this moment of our service, is usually the time we would pass the proverbial basket. Just letting you all know that we're so grateful for the contributions that many of you offer to our little organization to help keep things going. We have support for our managing director and musicians and leadership and marketing. We have very little overhead, really. We're so grateful for everyone's generous donations. If anyone feels inspired or called to donate this morning, I'll go ahead and put our donation button in the chat, and I'll turn it over to Bruce and Cheryl for our song.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share,
that song just highlights for me so much the sense of community and the feeling of that for me. So I just love it every time. Thank you so much. Well, now it's my joy and my honor to welcome for this morning's speaking Reverend Rachel Jones here with us. Currently works as an interfaith spiritual health practitioner in an acute care hospital and in hospice, attending to people who are ill, in crisis, grieving, or at the end of life. Rachel graduated from the Vancouver School of Theology with a Master of Arts in Public and Pastoral Leadership and Spiritual Care in 2025. And she also holds an MS in Journalism from Columbia University, a BA in Sociology and Art from Lewis and Clark College. They've been practicing tarot both personally and semi-professionally for nearly a decade. Rachel, it's my delight to turn it over to you this morning and share with us the wisdom of tarot.
Thank you so much, Doralee. I'm so excited to be here with you all and to get to chat about tarot because it's just something I've really enjoyed exploring for the past 10 years or so. And I find over time just gains more and more insight and more depth. And so I'm very excited to be sharing that with you today. So I have a slideshow here. So yeah, very excited to talk about the spirituality of the tarot. I first became interested. I think I've always kind of been intrigued by the tarot, and I think it's because I'm a very visual person. I think a lot in images. I relate a lot to pictures and imagery and art, and I find it a very meaningful way to engage, and especially when I'm looking in depth at something or trying to uncover something unconscious. I've always found that a very meaningful avenue into that kind of exploration. So I'm going to go over a little bit about the history of the tarot, and then my experience of the tarot, and then I'm going to do a tarot reading for the sanctuary, just a brief one. And I find it very appropriate since we're having our annual council meeting today to do a reading for our organization. So I'll start by just telling you a little bit about the tarot deck. So it's a suit or a deck of 78 cards. It has four suits of 14 cards apiece that are similar to the traditional playing card deck. And then it has 22 major arcana cards, which are more highly symbolic and archetypal and contain messages about the soul's journey through this lifetime. So where did the tarot come from? And most of the information in this section I've gleaned from this lovely, beautiful illustrated history of the tarot, which is written and edited by Jessica Hunley. It originated primarily in Italy in the 14th and 15th centuries, although versions that inspired the tarot existed prior to that. And the earliest versions were often commissioned for aristocratic families and royalty. It likely evolved from early Islamic playing cards used in a game called Taroki or Tarok, and that arrived in Europe in the 1300s from countries like Egypt and Turkey. So there are a lot of people who look at the tarot as like containing esoteric Egyptian knowledge and wisdom that has been handed down through the ages. These cards are known as Mamluk cards that came to Europe from Islamic countries, and they're widely considered the predecessor of both the tarot and modern playing cards. So the 52 card decks that we used commonly to play poker or all kinds of games. So how is the tarot used? In the past, it's been used as an ancient form of divination. So people use it as a way to figure out, what do I do? What's going to happen? Should I marry this person? Should I do this thing? And it can still be used that way today. I remember, I think my earliest experience of someone receiving a tarot reading, or I think I got one myself, but I mostly remember my friends. We were in college and we went to a flea market and she got a tarot reading. And I remember the lady told her she was going to get divorced. She hadn't married yet, of course. And she was very angry about that. She was like, how dare she? She doesn't know anything. And I do think there's a danger in that sort of approach to the tarot, both in terms of like your even if it's true, is that something you should be telling somebody about their life journey? So I think there's some caution present in that. And for myself, when I learned to do the tarot, I learned it in quite a different way, um, which is more of a contemporary method of self-exploration and a way to access one's intuition and inner knowing. So what the tarot does, in my perspective, is it gives you sort of an overview of what's happening in your life, what situations you might be encountering, and new ways to look at them, new ways to think about them. And it provides a bigger picture. So it gives you an opportunity to put it in context and realize that this moment isn't going to be your entire life, and things will change and things will adjust and things will shift. And so if I'm going through something hard, it always helps me put that in perspective. And the tarot contains a universal and symbolic language. So it's something that anyone from any culture, any um, background, any country can relate to because it's not something that's particular to one place or time. It contains imagery from many different traditions. It has Kabbalistic ties. It contains numerology, animals. There are so many versions of the tarot deck that contain so much different interpretation and imagery of the general concepts that it's something that is not really confined to one way of looking or one way of seeing. And it's an archetypal representation of the human journey. So, and when we're thinking about our lives and the choices that we make and the things that happen to us, it's a way to draw on that sort of larger self, to look into the tarot deck and the imagery in it and consider, well, what sort of archetype is present in the situation or in myself that is coming into play, and how might that influence what I decide or where I go or what I do. So I'll speak a little bit about the major arcana. So these are the 22 cards, and they represent the soul's journey through a lifetime. So whether that's growth, joy, suffering, the idea is that we move through all of these different stages to fulfillment and enlightenment. So, and of course, it's not just like a single path from one end to the other. It's there are ups and downs. We can be in like one more fulfilled or enlightened stage, and then we can fall back and have a new lesson to learn. So it's like always shifting, always changing. Things come and go. And it utilizes a symbolic language drawing from pagan, Christian, and Kabbalistic beliefs, but also references to numerology, astrology, myths, and archetypes. So these cards, the major arcana cards, are numbered 0 through 21, beginning with the Fool and ending with the World. So I'll show you those cards here. So the Fool is kind of the beginning of the journey. It's someone stepping out into the unknown. It doesn't mean they're foolish. It just means that they are stepping out, taking a chance, don't really know where they're going, can't see where it's going to take them, but they're willing to take that risk and take that step forward regardless, and just see where it goes. And then the final card, the World, represents the completion of a journey. So you see like it almost looks like sweetgrass, but it's all tied together. It's come full circle. It's come all through all of these different stages, faced all of these different challenges, and has reached a place of satisfaction and fulfillment. And then the minor arcana are the 4 suits of the tarot. So these explore personal narratives with more nuance and detail. So they're a way to look at what are the nuances of this situation, what are the specifics, rather than sort of like a big archetypal message. They contain smaller indications of like, maybe you want to think about this, or maybe you want to consider this, or maybe you want to go that way. Or, for example, these cards are all aces, and aces typically represent a beginning. So when an ace shows up in a reading, it represents a new beginning. So the 4 suits of the tarot are the cups, the pentacles, the swords, and the wands, and they each have different representations. So the cups typically are aligned with the element of water, And they represent emotions, relationships, the inner feminine, and intuition. The pentacles are represented by the element of earth, and they are more the practical and material parts of life, so things like health and wealth, career, work-related things. And then the swords are affiliated with the element of air, and these represent intellect, decisive change, decision making, power, action, and change. And then wands are typically associated with the element of fire, and they represent creativity, growth, manifestation of your dreams, and willpower. So a lot of people will also read, there's meaning for the cards that go between 1 and 10, depending on their number. Like I mentioned, 0, the ace is a beginning. Um, and 10 is seen as a kind of a card of completion or something coming to fruition. Fives are often a challenge or a conflict. So each of those is also a journey from 1 to 10. There's also a journey contained within that. And then the 4 court cards, um, the typical playing card deck will have a knight, king, and queen. And there's an additional one in the tarot where there's a page. Or in some decks, they're interpreted as a daughter, son, mother, and father. And so tarot decks have evolved over time. Um, they've evolved to incorporate numbers, adding the layer of significance with numerology and interpretation. One of the most well-known decks, and the one that I've been showing imagery from, is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is often called the Rider-Waite deck, and it's commonly referred to as the original of contemporary tarot decks. So it shifted the decks that came before that by restructuring the order of the major arcana, and the older imagery, which contained like a pope and a papist, was changed to the Hierophant and the High Priestess. So it shifted some of the more religious and traditional European language and imagery to be more inclusive and archetypal. But yeah, most of the decks, this is the most common deck you'll see out there, and most contemporary decks are designed off of this deck. And then another deck that came out a few decades after, in 1942, made further changes. It reimagined the Strength card as lust and Temperance card as art, but it's less commonly used as a foundation for contemporary decks, although it is as well. And that's the Thoth Tarot. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my journey with the tarot. So when I first started learning, I figured, knowing that the Rider-Waite deck was considered the original, I decided to start exploring with that deck. And so I got a book, I got a deck, and I started drawing one card a day and reading about it and just seeing how that applied to my day. So I always recommend that to people who want to start learning the tarot as a good way to do that. Um, and over time, I became more and more familiar with the cards. I started to see kind of relationships between the card that I drew and the events of the day. It gave me an opportunity to reflect on what had happened that day, a different way of looking at it. How might this card relate to the things that I had experienced that day? And then once I became more familiar with the cards, I started doing readings. There are different layouts you can do. So some people just draw one card. That's a reading that's commonly done. Some people draw 3 cards for past, present, and future. And then another common reading layout that I do involves 10 cards, and it's called the Celtic Cross. And that's a much more general reading. So I'll do that one for people just to give them an idea of this is where you're at in your life. These are the things you're dealing with. And sometimes it has a focus, whether that's, work related or romance or where they're living, and that comes through in that, but it's kind of designed as a more general form of reading. So I did that for a number of years just for myself, and then I started doing it for some friends. And they were, who were interested, and I do it online for them. I would take a picture of the reading and write it out for them, or sometimes do it on Zoom. And they always found it really meaningful and So I was like, well, I just want to keep going with this. So I took a class on the tarot, which opened up a lot more things that I hadn't considered. Um, like just the numerology aspect of it and things that I hadn't quite understood before. Um, and then I always, they say that your deck or the deck meant for you is supposed to come to you. And so I was always like, even though I was practicing with the Rider-Waite deck, I thought to myself, like, one day I'm going to find my own deck, the right deck. And I don't know, I'll just know it when I see it. So, I've been to lots of stores, I've looked at lots of decks, and I was always kind of like, that's not it, that's not it. And then it was probably about 3 years later, 4 years later, after I'd started learning the tarot, that I was at a meditation retreat in Santa Cruz. And I finished the retreat and I was still in kind of like a quiet space. And so I just stayed at an Airbnb by myself to give myself time before I was traveling and went to see a bunch of friends and had to be very social again. And so I was just kind of quietly by myself in Santa Cruz and walked into the store. And there was this tarot deck called The Wild Unknown by Kim Krantz, which has become quite popular. And I saw it and I was like, oh, this is it. I know this is it. And part of me was like, this is 2018 and I thought it was $40. I was like, it's kind of expensive to spend $40 on a card deck. Should I get it? So I was like, well, I'm going to think about it. And if I still feel this way tomorrow, I'll come back and get it. So I did, and I bought it. And I went to see my friends and I went to see my parents right after that. And a friend of mine had emailed me or mailed me a present out of the blue, and it was the archetype deck by the same creator, Kim Krantz. So it just seemed like, okay, this is right. This is the one I'm supposed to be working with. And so that's the deck I've been working with for the last, I guess that was, yeah, almost, that was 2018. So quite a while. Yeah, so nearly 10 years, 8 years or so. Um, and they say with your deck, you're supposed to, treat it in a special way, that you're supposed to put it in a good place, keep it safely. When you use it, you're supposed to lay out a cloth first so that it's not like touching dirty surfaces. A lot of people don't want other people to touch their decks. So the idea is you develop a relationship with your deck over time, so that it speaks to you in more depth and you relate to it as well. And it becomes sort of this language that you develop between the two of you. And so that's kind of what I do with this deck. After I moved back to Vancouver, I decided to try reading tarot on the streets. So I was in theology school, which is, very heavy in an academic sense. And I was exhausted and I needed some extra money, but I didn't want to take on a job with a regular schedule. And so I decided to just set up a stand on the streets of Gastown in Vancouver and offer tarot readings, which I did by donation. And a lot of strangers would come, people off the cruise ships. I had a few regulars that would come back, and my schedule wasn't regular, so I was just sometimes there and sometimes not. And I found it really, and I could do my reading for school, when I was not reading for tarot for other people. I found it just like such a joyful and intimate way to connect with strangers. I'd have people tell me things, they're very intimate stories. Yeah, I would just get a lot of meaning and connection out of it, and I could tell that they did as well. And so it just was a very kind of profound way to explore the tarot, and also because the readings that I'd done prior were for friends or myself. I knew about their lives. I knew who they were. I knew a little bit about what was going on for them. And these are total strangers who I knew nothing about. And so it was always very interesting to do a reading. And sometimes I'd be like, really? Is this what it's saying? And I would just tell them and they would be like, oh, that's very accurate, even if it doesn't sound positive. And that's the thing about the tarot, it doesn't lie. And sometimes people want it to. I had one man who really, I had a couple of people, one man and one young woman, both of whom really wanted a relationship. And they would come ask me about it. And I was like, well, it's saying that there's some things you need to work on and need to do on your own. And the one man was like, but he was like arguing back. He was like, but what if this or what if that? And I was like, well, I can draw a couple more cards and see what they say. And they would just say the same thing in a different way. And the young woman would come see me almost every time. Like if she ran across me on the street, she would come and do a reading with me about getting a boyfriend. And every time it would be like, nope, not now. Nope, not now. And so it was just a very, and I've had that happen with myself too. I'll do readings for myself where I'm like, oh, my hair is getting all wild. That's what happens. But I would even when I did readings for myself, it would be like something, an outcome or something that I didn't want. And so I would do it again and it would just say the same thing, but with different cards and in a different way. So, so I've learned to trust it. And also like when things aren't going well, be like, okay, this is just what's happening right now. But I can also see the cards saying that this is a path to something else. It's going to take you in another direction. And so before I continue, I'm going to do a reading for the Living Interfaith Sanctuary. So, Bruce and Cheryl did some chants for us earlier that were really lovely. And these are different ways to kind of do an invocation, to bless the reading, to call in guidance and light. What I tend to do personally is just have a moment. I ask the person's name, then I have a moment of quiet, and I just like sense a heart connection with that person, and kind of it's not so much with words, but more just a sense of like what will be good for this person. What does this person need to know or hear? So that's what I'm going to do with the sanctuary today, and then I'm going to do a past, present, and future reading. So I'll invite you to join me in a moment of silence. Draw 3 cards and put them face down.
Is there a way to change the camera angle so we can see the cards?
You will when I'll hold them up they're just face down right now, but these are the backs of them. So this is the first one, and this is the the Three of Pentacles. So the pentacles represent the practical aspects of life, so things like money, um, health, wealth. And this card typically represents coming together to create a strong foundation. It's funny because in the Rider Waite deck, this card is actually like 3 people building a monastery. And when I think about the sanctuary, especially with like Dorley and myself and Kathy, it's like, oh. And so this card typically or even with like if you think about living interfaith church and living the community sanctuary and living interfaith sanctuary, like there's so many threes that are in our history. So that's really interesting because I think it's saying that in the past we've built a strong foundation. So that's present. And yes, Carol, you had a question.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I pulled this right before we started.
Which is that one? I can't
Three of
see.
Pentacles.
Oh, it's Three of Pentacles.
I
Oh my
pulled it right
goodness.
before the meeting started to see, sort of to guide me.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you,
Just,
Carol.
yeah.
That's lovely. So here is the present card for the present. So it's the Six of Cups. It's so funny too because our campaign, we just did a fundraising campaign about our last year's one was rooting for the future, and this year's one was planting seeds of hope. And so the cups represent, the emotions, the water element, the fluidity, the feminine intuition, the connection to kind of like movement and flow. And then this card in particular, each deck has its own imagery, represents like a tree rooted down into the earth, and you can see the roots are even though the tree is in black and white, the roots are all very colorful and rainbow. So it's this sense of like the work that's being done under the ground. So even if the tree like is here and it's like growing and it's like doing okay, but underneath it's almost like more rooted than it has more roots than top in a sense. Um, and so emotionally and intuitively, we're very rooted. And this is really positive because honestly, I was preparing for our council meeting after this service, and our finances don't look great. We're fine for the next year, but after that, we'll see. And so this is the 10 of Cups. I'm sorry, can you hear that beeping in the background? No. Okay, good. So this is the 10 of Cups, and this represents emotions again. And this is, like I mentioned, the tens are all completion cards. So this is like kind of coming to a place of completion. And if you look at it in relation to these cards, where you've got, if you look at where the colors are, right, you've got the foundations with the three colors, you've got the roots growing down with all the colors, and then here it's kind of like everything is flowing within everything else. So everything's interconnected, everything's flowing, everything's moving, everything's is going the way it's supposed to, basically. And it's totally interconnected, and it's like sharing, and there's equality, and there's involvement, and there's openness. So this is very positive. I'm glad. I'm like, I hope it's not the card that symbolizes poverty. So, so this is good to see. So that's the reading for the Living Interfaith Sanctuary. And then I thought I would just close by suggesting a few resources. So this is the guide that I used when I was learning the Rider-Waite deck that was very helpful. So if anybody wanted to start exploring tarot for themselves or specifically the Rider-Waite deck, that's one I would suggest. And drawing one card and reading about it is how I would suggest starting with that. And if you want to experiment with online readings, this is my favorite site. It's got a bunch of, you can choose which deck you want read from and which layout you want, and it will do a reading for you. So that's what I would suggest for that. Yeah, so that's everything for today. And thank you very much for being present and for being part of this community.
Thank you, Rachel. Oh, that's so special. What a good reading for the sanctuary. I feel like we could spend some time talking even more about that and the kind of subtleties there than the linking of things. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. We have one more song from Bruce and Cheryl, and then we'll close with a prayer, and then folks are welcome to stay after to chat with Rachel for a bit, and then we'll lead into our annual community meeting after that. So I'll turn it over for one more song here at the end.
Highest truth,
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel for our closing prayer.
Please join me in our closing prayer. Divine Spirit, beings of light and guidance, ancestors, please walk with us through this journey of life. Please guide us through our difficulties. Walk with us through our joys and our sorrows and help us to know we're not alone. Help us to see the path forward, whether that is through imagery and tarot and archetype or through other forms of connection and celebration and knowing deep within our bones. And help us as a community to go forward in our highest good and our highest truth. May it be so.